Hello, and thank you for joining us for one of our AT&T focused webinars today. In just a minute, we'll be joined by Tyson Mavar, who's one of our senior financial advisors, and he is going to be offering a webinar that is tailor-made for AT&T Legacy employees to go over some information, but also address some of your questions surrounding your pension benefits. But before Tyson comes on, I'd like to very quickly remind you that we are not affiliated nor endorsed whatsoever by AT&T. The retirement group is a completely independent group of financial advisors. After Tyson's presentation, I will rejoin him very quickly to ask him some questions that may have come through the Q&A box. I invite you to pop open that Q&A box, ask away. It's completely anonymous, and Tyson will answer as many questions as he can, time permitted. And I will also be entering some links into the chat while he is presenting. So please pop open that chat box as well. There'll be very valuable resources in there, one of which may be the cash flow analysis, which is a complimentary resource that we offer that you can have run with one of our advisors to get started on your financial planning. And with that, I'm going to now turn off my camera so Tyson can get started. Hi, Tyson.
Hi, Sam. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, folks. My name is Tyson Mavar. I'm one of the AT&T focused retirement advisors for the retirement group. And today we're going to be talking about the ALM, the AT&T Legacy Management Program, where if you log into Fidelity, you'll see this as the legacy program of the AT&T PBP. So this is not for all employees. This is a pension for Legacy T employees. Essentially, employees hired prior to 2007, they no longer offer this plan to new hires. We're going to talk about how the plan works, some critical considerations for somebody that is on this plan and approaching retirement. We're also going to talk about the interest rates that affect the lump sum today. So some of the highlights to this plan, I mentioned earlier, they stopped offering this plan after 2007 to new hires. And with the merger, AT&T merging with Southwestern Bell Corporation, some of the harmonization of the plans and changes to the benefits that we've seen really over the last 15 years, this is a pretty lucrative plan. This is, I would say, the most lucrative or the benefit plan that pays the most from all the pensions that I've seen at AT&T, and there's close to 20 of them in my experience. So a lot of different pensions. If you're not on this plan, this webinar, unfortunately, will not be relevant to you. We've got other webinars for the other pension plans. But if you are on this plan, it's important to understand a little bit of the details on this. So they have what's called a age 65 normal retirement age. And if you take your pension prior to 65, they call this a early retirement pension. Now, if you wait until 65 to take your pension will likely be growing. But what I always encourage people to do is figure out what that growth rate is and figure out what you could otherwise earn outside of the plan, whether you're taking the lump sum or the annuity. Now that interest rates are higher here in 2024 than they were 2 years ago, alternatives out there are better than they've been in a long time. So it's important to weigh the costs as well as the benefits of leaving your money in the plan. But you can leave your pension where it is until age 65, and that is when you will be forced to take your pension as a normal retirement age if you are no longer working. If you're still working past age 65, you cannot take your pension, of course, until you leave the company, but you will be forced to take your pension immediately if you work beyond your age 65. Now, this pension has a cash balance account, but it's important to realize this cash balance account is a hypothetical number that is not your actual pension benefit. This is a number that's used to calculate both your full lump sum option as well as the various annuity options you have on your pension and the partial lump sum with residual annuity if you have that option. But it is not your full lump sum. In fact, it's a smaller number than your full lump sum. And I oftentimes will run a plan for somebody. We ask them their pension. They'll say one number. We log into the net benefits website and find out that's just the cash balance account, and their pension is actually much larger. So keep that in mind, that this is a hypothetical number, not actually what you will be getting as a lump sum. And the plan grows based on salary credits and interest credits, wherein the longer you work with the company, the more money you'll get. Your age is also a factor in what your salary credits are going to be. And even after you retire, you're going to continue to earn interest credits on this until you actually commence the benefit or pull the money from the plan, whether taking a lump sum or an annuity. So we talked about the normal retirement pension. If you leave earlier, you're going to get less money, but at what rate is your pension growing? That's pretty important to understand and compare after you leave the company. Um, you will be forced to take the pension at age 65 if you are not working and you deferred the election of your pension, for instance. But in some cases, it does make sense to defer the election of your pension as a result of, in part, what interest rates are doing. Many of you know the interest rates that affect your lump sum change once per year. They change on January 1st, and they are based off of the previous November's interest rate. So this is oftentimes we spend a lot of time with not only our clients, but prospective clients at AT&T, Legacy T and otherwise, figuring out what's going to happen to your pension. Is it going to go up or down on the lump sum going into next year? And is this potentially a catalyst to leave the company, maybe at a different date than you originally planned to retire or to leave AT&T? So very important to watch these interest rates. They're based on the corporate bond interest rates, and we'll go over those in just a moment. Now, this cash balance account, I mentioned, this is where your interest credits and your pay credits go, but this is not going to be your full lump sum. There's going to be a conversion related to both your life expectancy as well as corporate bond interest rates to convert that into your single life annuity and then convert that back into a full lump sum, which is in most cases a bigger number than the actual cash balance account. Fortunately, better pension if you haven't actually ran an estimate. Highly encourage you to do that. There's more options than just the lump sum. The lump sum was popular for a long time. And even in the higher interest rate environment where lump sums are smaller today than they were a couple of years ago, we still see this lump sum being very popular. But there's also some merits to these different annuity options. So let's go through them. The joint and 50% survivor. This is a benefit that's payable for 2 lifetimes, usually a married couple, but not always. And where you will actually receive a little bit less money during your lifetime, you, the employee or retiree, and your spouse or your joint annuitant will get 50% of what you were getting, assuming you pass away first. There's other joint survivor options wherein your spouse or your joint annuitant will receive more money after your lifetime, but you will receive less money during your lifetime, or an early retirement as we think of it. And what option is going to suit you and your family best is a function of a variety of factors, a function of risk tolerance, life expectancy, your current age, income sources, tax bracket status. There's a lot of factors here that we always encourage people to run a cash flow analysis, something we do complimentary, or we offer to do complimentary for everybody at AT&T, even if you're not a client yet. And this can help you to understand what's going to be some of the merits of these different options, given all of these variables in your and your family's plan. The 100% joint survivor is one where the income does not change for the spouse or for the joint annuitant, but you give up the most money in early retirement or during your lifetime to offer no reduction to the income of your spouse or joint annuitant. And then, of course, the full lump sum is very popular for people that like control of their money, that feel they can do better with the investments on that money. For folks that want a more flexible death benefit, maybe it's to avoid disinheriting your children or other beneficiaries or causes that might be important to you. The lump sum gives you the most flexibility, but there certainly are risks with the lump sum related to improper investment, related to life expectancy. If the longer you live, the more of a burden there is on the lump sum to be able to produce interest to keep up with the annuity that is quote unquote guaranteed by the full faith and credit of AT&T. So a lot of factors here, but we spend a lot of time with our clients on this prior to retirement to confirm that they've done their due diligence and that they have the least possibility of regret with this decision, because it is an irrevocable decision. It's a very important one related to maximizing your retirement income and giving you the best retirement experience possible. Now, we talked about these basic benefit credits. These are based off of your salary with the company, and they get better the older you get or the longer you've been with the company. So these go into your cash balance account. Again, not your full lump sum, but is related to both the lump sum and annuity calculations. And they get really good toward the end of your career. So this is one of the reasons most people are sticking with the company, other than just the salary, are these good basic benefit credits that are coming to them later in their career. Now, there's also interest credits on the pension plan, but don't confuse that with the interest rates that are used to calculate your lump sum. The higher the interest credits, the better off you're going to be. So rising interest rates are both good and bad to this plan because they mean higher interest credits, but they also mean a bigger discount to your lump sum. And in most cases, higher interest rates have a net negative impact to your lump sum payout. And shout out to Adam in marketing for this nice visual here. We have the 5G towers showing that as interest rates go up, and specifically corporate bond interest rates go up, your lump sum is going to go down. And we definitely saw that in 2021, 2022. And we saw that a little bit from 2023 to 2024 recently here, where now we're in the highest interest rate environment that we've seen in over 10 years at the retirement group for AT&T employees. People are still taking lump sums, but this could be a reason to consider deferring the election of your pension. For example, let's say the company forced you to move this year and you chose not to, decided to leave the company, and let's say you're able to leave in July. Well, July is still 5 months away from the end of the year. However, it might be worth waiting that 5 months to see if interest rates go down in November, and as a result, your lump sum goes up in January. Even though you don't get access to your money as quickly, which is, of course, a detriment, whether you're taking the lump sum or the annuity, could be worth it, especially if come this summertime, interest rates are substantially lower than they were last November. The likelihood of you making money on your lump sum come January is a lot higher. And they have actually dropped quite a bit in the last 3 months, coming up to where we are today here in March of 2024. I'm going to zoom in on the interest rate chart here. You can see the November 2023 rates, which are what are used to calculate lump sums for 2024, are a little bit higher than the previous November. They went up on the second segment rate, which is where we focus the most on because it carries by far the most weight in this calculation. They went up 16 basis points or 0.16%. So that probably resulted in about a 1.5% drop in lump sums on January 1st, give or take, dependent on your age. Not nearly as big of a jump as we saw from 2022 to 2023, when the second segment rate went up close to 3% in 1 year. That was close to 30% drops in lump sums we saw for our clients and people that we were talking to. And many people left the company as a result of this interest rate change in an effort to avoid the losses associated with these interest rate changes. So unfortunately, if you're still working, you likely participated in that, but it's possible interest rates could go down in the next several years. And we've already seen the corporate bond interest rates leading up to March of 2024 go down a significant degree, close to 1% in just in the last few months. Then you can see how interest rates have gone up and down over the last few years. They were pretty high in 2018. So 2019 was a pretty big drop in lump sums for some folks. But then they went down throughout the pandemic and then jumped up again recently. And we just watch these very closely to ensure that we're not getting the timing wrong on our retirement and also getting the timing wrong on the election of our lump sum. And like we talked about, the two don't always have to coincide. But keep in mind, as a Legacy T employee, your benefit commencement date has to be on the first day of the month, and it has to be after your retirement. So as a result of this, you have to retire by November 30th and commence your pension on December 1st to get the current year interest rates. If you don't retire till December, your earliest commencement day is going to be January 1st, and you're going to get kicked out into the next interest rate year. Now, that could be a benefit this year if interest rates stay lower, but in many cases, that is a detriment if interest rates have gone up because it's going to exclude you from the more favorable interest rates, and you're going to lose money on your lump sum as a result. Here's an example of one of our clients' Fidelity Net Benefits website. When you run your pension projection, here's where you can see the difference between your cash balance account compared to your full lump sum. So this person ran a projection for retiring at 55 and 8 months, commencing their benefit immediately. You can see the lump sum interest rates are showing 0%. That's just because we didn't assume any changes to the interest rates. That doesn't mean they're actually using zero for all of these interest rates on the corporate bonds. And if you click on the calculation details, either of these assumption details will show you the actual interest rates used. And if no changes are made, they're just going to use the current interest rates, those ones that we saw in the last slide. But the calculation details, I encourage everybody to look at this. There's some great information related to how the company is calculating your ALM benefit. And I'll zoom in here a little bit deeper. You can see this person, for that retirement, they had a cash balance account up at the top here of 688,000 and some change. Lower than that, you can see the qualified single life annuity. That would be the annuity if they did not include a joint survivor, was a little over $3,500 a month. But then it shows these interest rates. So we could tell these projections were ran in 2022 before the big increase in rates took place. Those were some very favorable interest rates, the most favorable in my career with the company, going back 14 years. But then look at the bottom here. You can see the qualified 417E minimum lump sum, which is just a fancy way of saying the Pension Protection Act or corporate bond interest rates. They produce a lump sum for this person of 810,000, which is substantially higher than that cash balance account. You can see it's about $122,000 more than the cash balance account. So very important to make sure you're looking at the right number when you're doing your retirement planning. We're going to walk you through this when we run your cash flow analysis, if you choose to do that with us, and we'll make sure that we're getting the right numbers in there. Then you could see this person was showing, with the rates that were in effect later in the year, a loss on their lump sum of over $200,000. That was very common for people in 2022. And the reason a lot of people ended up retiring and taking their pension before they lost money on their lump sum from 2022 to 2023. Now, we found, unfortunately, statistically, 74% of Americans over the age of 50 don't even have a written plan for their retirement. As far as we're concerned, this is not acceptable, folks. This is too important to sleep on, to not put some time into prior to leaving, especially with all the changes constantly happening at AT&T. The majority of people that we work with don't pick their retirement date anymore, or at least don't retire on the day that they originally planned, whether it's because the company moves their job or gives them a surplus or something happens. Maybe they got a better job offer somewhere else. Now's the time. There's no time like the present to put this together, because oftentimes the biggest mistakes are made when made under duress. And the worst thing you can do is wait till the last minute to put the plan together, because whether it's picking your financial advisory firm, picking the option you take on your pension, picking your retirement date, making decisions to pull money out and making expensive tax mistakes. All of these can be avoided by putting a plan together in advance. And we don't charge for this. We do this complimentary for everybody at AT&T in an effort to get to know you before you retire, so that you might consider doing some business with us if you felt that it was going to be a good fit to work with us. With that, we're going to wrap it up for today's webinar series. Unless we have some questions, Sam, we do have some time to open it up for some questions if you've got any.
Thanks, Tyson. Yeah, we're just going to answer a couple. I want to try to keep this short. This first question: when will it be possible for me to retire from AT&T and still benefit from the existing interest rates as an ALM plan member?
Good question. I would argue that it's not a benefit this year. That it's more likely than not that interest rates are going to be lower next year than they are this year, because of how much they've dropped in the beginning of this year. But to answer your question, as long as you're not 65 yet and are forced into an immediate commencement, you could retire anytime, take your pension the first of the month following your retirement, or wait until the next year. In the example that we saw, the interest rates were going down, you're likely going to make some money on your lump sum. I would want to talk to that person, walk them through the net benefits website, and run several models on their pension to show you what kind of dollar figures we're looking at in terms of the lower interest rates, how that's going to affect your lump sum. But if you retired now, you're going to get less money than you would have got last year, and potentially less money than you would get next year. So certainly call us and let's put a plan together and see what might be the ideal date for you to not only retire, but to take your pension.
All righty, Tyson, thank you. We're going to do one more. This last one: does the AT&T pension plan incorporate adjustments for inflation to ensure its value keeps pace with economic changes over time?
Good question. So I have two answers to that. While you're working, we've talked about both the interest credits and salary credits you receive. That is one way to keep up with inflation, at least the interest credit portion of that. once you take your pension, if you take the annuity, there is no cost of living adjustment. As a result, the further along in time we go, the less valuable your pension is going to become because it's a fixed dollar amount, whereas all of the costs of living, prices of goods and services we buy in the US are going up over time. So no inflation hedge or inflation adjustment for the annuity folks, people that take an annuity. If you take the lump sum, you can invest that money however you want. And the goal, part of the goal there would be not only to protect that money, but to hedge against inflation. In other words, at least keep pace with inflation, and more likely get a better return than inflation is deteriorating your purchasing power over time so that you don't run out of money, to reduce the risk of running out of money in retirement.
Alrighty, Tyson, that was it. Anything else you want to add before we end?
We talked about a lot, Sam. I appreciate
Yeah,
the
we
help
did.
today. Thank you all for attending our webinar series. Everybody have a good, safe rest of the week. We hope to talk to you all very soon.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Tyson. Have a good day.